Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lali-Ho League Finals. We're in Game 2 of Dustygriff versus xPankraz. My name is Rex Raoul, and I'm joined in the booth by Possum Morpheus. Possum, we had a really exciting Game 1, didn't we?
We definitely did, Rex. The match was absolutely fantastic. Came down to just a couple minutes of separation between the two runners. Something like a 1 hour and 11 minutes, 1 hour 14-minute time frame was just absolutely an amazing race to watch our two fantastic runners go at it. And we get the enjoyment and the pleasure of being able to be in the commentary booth for their second game. And I am so happy to be here, Rex, with you on comms, with Maggie and Niabari behind the scenes. This is just going to be an absolute blast and such a showcase from two of, if not the best two runners in the entire Free Enterprise community.
Yeah, these two definitely proved their worth throughout the totality of the event. And that first game, when you talk about how close it really was amazing just to see the execution from both of them. Now, it looks like in this race, we're given a Sid start, and our two random objectives this time are going to be a couple boss hunts in Galvez and the Mega Sisters. What do you make of this, Possum?
Well, the first thing that I make of it is they're not actually that bad in most places. Golbez is a little tricky early on. However, Golbez is easily defeatable with things like Star Veils, or even if he's in, a spot that he does a ton of damage. As long as you can get a single Veil up, he's going to do all the damage for you. The Magus Sisters may actually be trickier, especially in split health pool locations if there's no, let's say, Quack Kid or Fusoya available. But Sid has access to rune axes. If you find a Kane or a Cecil or even, like a Rydia with a heroin robe, put a mute knife on her. There's lots of ways to do it, but I actually think Magus Sisters is scarier than Golbez in a lot of situations for runners of this caliber.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you there. The Mega Sisters pose a unique difficulty in that they do single target magic, but they force walls onto your own team. They also do physical attacks, and they can revive. If the middle sister stays alive, she can revive the other ones. And the middle sister is the one who gets the bulk of the HP. So, yeah, in certain spaces, it can be very dangerous. High magic attack, high physical attack are both scary on them. But it looks like we're off, and we're going to see how these runners take on these challenges that we have tonight, and we're also going to get a peek at how much money they're actually going to start with.
Yeah, and looks like we have a Sid and a Cecil joining him. A tower key, 64,000 gold in that starter kit. In a starter kit that ranges between 20 and 80, 64 is a ton. And also a black sword sitting in that starter kit. This could be a very quick overworld. That's a very generous starter kit and a very generous amount of money.
Eric Knight Cecil's ultimate weapon. And it is actually very good. It makes him much more useful for the overworld bosses than he would be otherwise. But it's still going to be, there's the extra incentive for having Cecil in the party of doing mount ordeals. We also have the two boss objectives. That also makes ordeals a lot more enticing because there's going to be two more chances to hit, or three opportunities up there to hit one of these bosses.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have some instant divergence. Pankraz saying, I have Cecil's ultimate weapon in that black sword. I have a Sid. Let me go to Hobbs and get some characters. Dusty, meanwhile, saying, let me go do some looting in Watery Pass. Meanwhile, there is a Kane hanging out with King Queen Eblin up on Mount Hobbs. So that's a very strong melee start for our runners. Now, I don't remember, though, did we see anything good for Kane in that starter kit?
Not that I recall, but I think that was a black belt that Dustygriff found in the Watery Pass. So that's going to help this strong melee party. But I do also think it's interesting. I believe this was the same opening that Dusty went for. Well, in the previous round, there was also a Darkness Crystal start, so the runners went right up to the moon to get the character. But Dusty went straight for the Watery Pass after that last time. But Pankraz had gone to Castle Eblin, so a little bit of change from Pankraz's routing from the last run again.
Yeah, definitely. And a little bit more divergence here. We see Dustygriff heading into Kaipo. We have that was either an Edge or a Tella. I couldn't quite make it out because of how quickly Dusty can peek that and see who it
I
is.
thought it was Tella, but I could be wrong. That was very fast on Dusty's part, but that's what it is in a race. You want to go as fast as possible, right?
Absolutely. And there's a curse ring in Kaipo. I want to say there might have been a curse ring in Kaipo in the last seat as well. But meanwhile, Pankraz making his way through. He has that dancing dagger that Kane started with, which is absolutely a phenomenal weapon. Dustygriff did buy one. So that's kind of an interesting little bit of divergence there. And that's 5,000 that Pankraz is not going to have to spend. And there Dusty is finding another dancing dagger. That's not really what you want to see, but at least they started with 64,000, so not super punishing.
Dancing daggers for days, and a Bacchus wine found in the back of the watery pass as well. So some good stuff, but this is a bit more of a time investment that Dusty makes to try to boost up his characters by getting this loot early, whereas Pankraz is some business already.
Yeah, Pankraz saying, I have things that I can do. I have Cecil's ultimate weapon. The dancing dagger is phenomenal early on, and Sid can just be a meat shield and, face tank, if you will. There's a hook also that's going to open another great chance for Pankraz to do some looting, as well as another character check. Could even be something like an early Fusoya.
And with the looting in this flag set, certain areas are weighted a bit stronger for loot. And Cave of Evelyn is one of the places that is ranked a little higher. So it does become a prime spot to get the treasures from out there. And getting an early hook is really nice in a situation like that. A couple nice axes that Dusty is finding in the bottom of Damsian as well.
Yeah, I'm actually much more excited about that dwarf axe than I am the ogre axe. I know that might seem a little strange. Also, a mute knife that's been picked up. That dwarf axe is going to be the only normal way in which Kane can be backroad, and that's absolutely huge. It also means that Cecil and Sid, can all easily be backroad with just that one weapon. Very quick to equip, and then take them off. But Pankraz heading immediately to go ahead launch that hoverboat. Going to give us a peek at the waterfall as well, where we already know that Dusty has peeked this. And it's just some dolls, not an objective, but Dusty definitely has a little bit of a loot advantage here, but Pankraz has a little bit in the way of check advantage.
Yeah, now Dusty going where Pankraz started, going to see that Kane up at the top of the mountain. And I imagine at this point, especially since the boss is free, there's no reason for Dusty to skip Kane at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. You're definitely going to want to bring Kane on. He is... I like to say patently average is what I describe Kane as. He's great early game, he's decent mid game, and he just kind of falls behind like the Cecils and the Edges of the world late game. But he's early on a fantastic character. He's very fast. He has a wide array of weapons he can use. He's a very nice early character, and coming with that dancing dagger is phenomenal.
Yeah, the dancing dagger, of course, you can use it as an item in battle to do somewhere between like 250 and 500 damage. And, that tapers off at the end of the game to, like in the middle of the game, to that it's not that good. But up here in the overworld, that is a very significant amount of damage. Even if you've got like a good spear for Kane, often he struggles to deal that kind of damage early.
Definitely. And speaking of good spears and good things in general in these Eblin shops, coffins and Bacchus for sale, as well as Gungnir's. So in a pinch, if Kane really needs a good weapon, a push in damage, Gungnir's are available. They are 66,000, and that is the vast majority of the money, but they are 66,000 indeed. Now, this is an interesting piece of information, and I'm not talking about the Palom that Pankraz has shown us. Val Valis is one of the 3 primary bosses that tells us this is not a mandatory hook route because of how the logic works in Free Enterprise. Val, Golbez, which is an objective, and Wyvern. So we know there is a magma key somewhere on the overworld or via a D-Mist. So that is great news for our runners.
And one of the always interesting situations that happens when you see something like this in a seed is that boss that's in the King Queen Evelyn spot right before the Rubicata spot, that could be where our Golbez or Magus Sisters are found as well. And the question is, when or if do our runners decide to take that risk of going down there? Because it is much longer to go through the hook route than the magma route.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where do you even do it? Also, right. Pankraz coming up with a Gungnir Spear and a Dwarf Axe in the hook route. So a lot of that early looting advantage that Dusty had just got negated by 2 chests alone in this hook path. That Gungnir is huge damage for Kayn, and that Dwarf Axe lets him back row everyone just the same. So that's great news for Pankraz, a little bit less great news for Dusty, who has spent more time looting and is basically a hook dive behind Pankraz at this time, who has purchased some coffins, some Bacchus, and 2 headbands to give himself some strength multipliers for this melee party.
Yeah, that's one of those things with Dusty's early looting. If it hadn't been for that hook being found early, then that could have provided Dusty a really big advantage through the early to middle parts of the game. But now
definitely
they're kind of on even footing as far as good gear goes, and Pankraz is a little bit ahead on checks. So right now, this early game, the placement of these items has been favoring Pankraz.
Yeah, that ruthless aggression and ruthless efficiency that Pankraz has become known for, really paying off in spades, at least early on. Of course, we know this is a very long race. We certainly don't expect, an hour and 10 minutes like it was on Wednesday. It's still a long way to go. And oh, hey, another Dancing Dagger. This is a seed for Dancing Daggers, but that is one that Palom can equip now, which is not an irrelevant piece of gear to pick up, because that lets him do something before he learns his spells.
See Dustygriff going and looting even further into Evelyn, into the infirmary as well, picking up a strength ring, and he just continues to be very methodical. And that's something that Dusty has always been known for too, very methodical routing. Once he decides, finds something that he likes, he tends to stick with it, and it often works out for him with his great execution. So we'll see if that ends up paying out for him in the end. That strength ring is a very nice pickup for his melee team.
Yeah, it definitely is. That strength ring, again, talking about those multipliers that those headbands will give Pankraz. The strength ring will also help to get extra multipliers. This is a boss that you don't necessarily want to see here on Pankraz's side. Karate always seeming to guard Cecil turning into a paladin instead of being available to freely be bopped later on.
That's correct, but at least this is not going to be a threat to Pankraz. This is not a scary boss in this spot by any means. Not much physical attack at this spot. And so, yeah, it's going to be easily dispatched, but you'd rather get the quick kill if you can. With the knowledge of the Magma Key around and the fact that Cecil's in the party, this is something that it's not going to be an advantage for either runner. I think both of them are going to have to face off against the Karate in this position.
Yeah, there's no way that you're going to be able to get around that. And oh boy, speaking of things you can't get around, that is an objective, but that is not a good spot to find Golbez. You're basically going to have to win a 50-50 here with a Star Veil. Maybe with some run buffering at correct times, you can get a Veil off with Cecil here, but I think this is a straight up 50-50 with the 2 characters that live.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were mentioning before the race begins how Golbez is not usually a scary boss, but this is one of those few places at this time of the game in this run that Golbez is a serious threat to a team.
Yeah, I mean, the magic here also is insanely high.
Very high.
It will easily one-shot anybody who's floating around in this party, Sid included, as far as, the Lit 3 and the virus. Maybe Sid lives through a fire too,
especially if he has a Dragoon piece of equipment equipped. But
true. But I would
the virus of Lit 3 is very scary here.
So didn't win the 50-50 on Cecil there. Gonna try to get this Sarvel off on Sid. Hopefully he's fast enough. He is. So was able to get there with a very nicely timed set of run buffers. Phenomenal job by Pankraz to get through that. And we see almost 2,000 damage coming out from that Lit 3. Golbez has effectively dealt 3,000 damage to himself already, and the fight is done. So very cleanly executed by Pankraz to get through that Golbez first time through.
Yeah, and that's taking knowledge of the game and making proper use of the run buffers. Run buffers are something that are tricky to get right, and so using it to your advantage is something that's great to see, and we saw Pankraz execute that perfectly.
Yeah, and that's objective number 4. The first objective completed for our runners, just under the 13-minute mark. So no time being wasted by our runners on this the seed that has been rolled by Niabari.
And it's also important to remember we do need to complete 4 out of the 5 objectives. We don't need to complete all 5 of them tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And ooh, there's an Earth Crystal. So that is another interesting little bit of knowledge for Pankraz there, that his underground access could be through Zot, but also more importantly immediately is the fact that he's going to have access to the treasury. And we know that he has not looted as much as Dusty, so everything kind of coming up Pankraz right now as far as this early game routing is concerned. I would fully expect to see a rate that treasury from Pankraz here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. It looks like Dusty has decided to head up to Fabul to do the defend of Fabul action here. So we're going to get another boss check, followed by another key item check, as Pankraz has defeated Dr. Luge and has received his reward of a Paladin Cecil.
Yeah, and we also now get to see there is a CPU hanging out in Baron Inn, so a little bit more divergence from our runners. I expect they will both be crossing each other's footsteps shortly here, but that ordeal's check in the bag for Pankraz, and we will soon find out what the Baron Inn what the Fabul rewards are as well.
With that Earth Crystal, there's just more options available on the overworld, so finding that Magma Key isn't simple as going to just one place. Pankraz still has 3 checks left, plus there's a possibility of a demist being hidden, like perhaps in its vanilla location still as well.
That's definitely true. There could be a demist hunt on the table here. We have Pankraz now heading over to Baron Inn, fading Fabul for the interim. And it looks like we have Dustygriff is through the orbs, who early on in a seed can be very annoying, but our runners have both found those dwarf axes to back row everyone, which makes it considerably easier. And there is the Magma Key, so fading Fabul is going to prove to be a little bit of a time loss, as that is the natural way underground in this seed.
Yeah, talking about back row glitching, it's important to remember that being in the back row of your party, that's what it helps with. The enemies also have front and back rows, and so dealing damage to the main big orb of CPU is you're doing full damage if your character is back row glitch or is currently equipped with a back row weapon.
Yeah, which will be especially effective and helpful for objective number 5, which is defeat the Magus Sisters.
Oh yeah, if you've got a back row character attacking with like a rune axe on the middle sister, that feels just so good.
And this is going to be an interesting fight here. Pankraz does have that firebomb with Sid. This should clear all 4 of the friends and just leave Mylon. So that's a very nice use of that J item from Pankraz. I assume we will also see the same from Dusty when he arrives here as well.
Firebomb being a weapon that's damage is based on the HP of the character who uses it. So making sure it's Sid who's using that item because he's got the most HP is the way to go with an item like that. The Firebomb, the Lit Bolt, and the Blizzard are the 3 items that are that they use that to calculate the damage. And then, of course, elemental weaknesses and strength apply with those as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just nice to see it. Also nice to see on Dusty's side, his cane just jumped that Karate Man for almost 1,200 damage. That is about double what Pankraz was doing. So I think the Black belt and strength ring and possibly headband may all be on that cane. He might just be loaded to the brim with strength here right now to help push Dusty through some of these fights.
No key item from the Baron Inn, just an apple, and a silver one at that. We do get yet another physical character added to the team. Yang, we did find some decent stuff from him. I saw a cat claw somewhere in the run early, but I think when you've got a Sid, you've got a Cecil, you've got a Kane, what you don't need is a Karate Man at this point.
Yeah, the best possible thing that our runners could find right now would be a white mage. There are Bacchus available in Eblin, but this is SL0 as one of the flags for brackets where you can't sell anything for money. So you don't exactly have unlimited resources as far as building your own white mage from stacks of tier 3s and Bacchus wines. So I think something like Zot, or maybe even Dwarf Castle, once our runners get underground, I think the search for a white mage is going to be very important for our runners here.
Would you consider, would you still have the higher priority of the characters searching for a white mage if there was a Tella in the party?
No, because you would have done ordeals already in the case of Pankraz, and you'll be done with it shortly in the case of Dustygriff. Tella is a phenomenal character on these flags. He doesn't require really any investment other than completing ordeals, which you would have done anyway for your Paladin Cecil. He comes loaded with the weak spell and all the, level 3 spells. Virus, he has Berserk, he has Blink, all the different cure spells. He misses a couple bits and pieces in there, but by and large, he's kind of discount Fusoya. And that's not a bad place to be in the world.
Also worth mentioning, seeing how Dustygriff was able to take care of Galvez with a lot less difficulty. Didn't have to resort to the 50-50 or the run buffering that we saw in Pankraz's, because his Palam had access to Pig, and so was able to pig up before, I'd probably reset and then pig into the fight. And then with that, the priority system of status effects in Final Fantasy IV means that if a character is inflicted with the pig status, they cannot be held by the hold gas. So plenty of time to get the Star Veil up on that one, and Dustygriff makes quick work of Galvez that way.
Yeah, very heads up knowing that if you take that 50-50 and you lose it, let's say that you run the risk of losing a lot of time to an opponent you don't want to be losing time to. Neither one of these runners wants to lose time to one another. So taking that safe route, that's very much so on brand for Dusty as well.
Yeah.
That he's generally speaking going to do the things that will consistently and effectively get him through a seed, as opposed to some of the more ruthless aggression from some of the other runners that might have been in a tournament. So it's always an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, Pankraz here been in both of the matches or both of the races in this match that we've seen so far, has been a little bit more aggressive and willing to make more daring plays, where Dusty has been a little bit more, I won't say conservative, but methodical, I'd say, in
Definitely.
the way that he does it.
Yeah, I mean, Dusty is going to make sure that if you are going to beat him, you are going to have to beat him. He is never going to beat himself. And that's something that has brought him unbelievable success in Free Enterprise. But I believe we're about to get everybody's favorite game here.
Raise that treasury!
Siren, a couple silent staffs. There's a full moon in there. Overact.
Not for this party at the moment out of 10, but potential is definitely there. The Heroine Rogue could be phenomenal. The Ogre Axe is less good for Dusty than it'll be for Pankraz, because I don't think Pankraz has one yet. The full moon, if there's an edge, would be phenomenal. It's a lot of really good stuff, but not necessarily for this party yet. The characters on Zot will really determine how good that treasury is.
Those silent staffs also one of the best white magic boosting staffs in the game. So again, you just want that white mage.
Yeah, the whole thing is, there's a runner that I frequently race against who often says, any white mage in a storm. And that's kind of where our runners are at right now, is that you would like a Tella, a Porum, a Rosa, a Fu. Any of the four.
Yeah.
Maybe even consider a Suraridia if it comes down to that. That's kind of where our runners are situated right now, is they could just really use a white mage to help with Zerking and any number of other things. Now, it will be interesting to see if Pankraz takes these sirens that he has and maybe does one of them to get Quack Kid online in particular, as he's making a beeline for the underground now.
Right, and so this is before going up the Tower of Zot. Was in the neighborhood to check the treasury in Thoria, but did not want to go up and climb the tower, despite the fact of the Earth Crystal in the possession. So has some other things to do. It might be just some checking some of the free key item checks. It could be popping a siren, as you say. We'll see what it has. We also have a tower key in play, so I don't know if we're going to see another Penguinator special or anything like that.
Could be, but looks like while Dusty is getting through Baron Inn and picking up his Apple and his Yang, Pankraz has decided, I have 5 characters, regardless of how good they are or not, let's get them some levels. And I think this is one thing that's really become a staple of not just a Pankraz race, but so many other runners. Making sure you get at least Quack Kid online and get some levels for your Cecil. Also, Kane and Yang benefit greatly, but there's Quake on the Kid, a lot of strength multipliers, and that's going to be good enough for Pankraz to say, let's take this one Siren and let's go play in a variety of different places now.
Yeah, that one Siren, that one egg, that if you're able to defeat it, if having the coffin here just made it simple, but if you've got a method of defeating that egg without it cracking and risking the party of the yellow dragon that comes out of it, it's so much experience for one fight that you can get through so quickly, and it really sets you up for that mid game. So when you've got the access of that Siren, it's a really popular thing to do. Is like you mentioned specifically for the characters that are in the party right now, but I think in general, a lot of runners just like to do that to get their party up to a mid game sort of level as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like Dustygriff now hot on Pankraz's heels, heading underground. We'll see if he does the same, maybe takes a Siren and a Coffin. We have a blue robe dancing around in Dwarf. This is a 50-50 shot at happy runners or unhappy runners. I hate gauntlets at Dwarf Castle, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
Water hat,
it is
much
annoying.
more pleasant. Ew.
Oh, that's a gauntlet, and that's a reset. Pankraz does want no part of that.
If you have a cursed ring or you have a way to possibly get Palom acting first, maybe run buffering to get Palom to act second and get viruses off, it's doable.
Looks like that's what Pankraz is trying to set up here, yeah.
Yeah. I think it might be one of those things where he's going to try to go into the battle, possibly holding down the A button to just immediately attack with whoever his initial character is, which I think in this case is going to be Kane. And then I think Palom, or at least we're hoping from the way that Pankraz has this set up, that you're going to see Palom act second and try to get a virus off in order to make this work. And it basically is going to buffer the turns to make this happen. Meanwhile, we see Dusty did do an egg, and he is coming back up to the overworld. So different routing here for our runners. And there is Dusty going to Zot. And that is exactly what Pankraz is doing. He's buffering those turns to get the viruses off by attacking with that cane initially as well. So we'll see if Pankraz can execute this for 5 battles. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do, but he is an absolute master at run buffering witchcraft.
if for some reason he misses a buffer or anything like that, he's not in real danger at this point after taking that egg. It's just going to be a longer fight.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, time is of the essence. You don't want to be,
Yeah.
losing it to anybody, and certainly not someone of Dusty's caliber. But it looks like Dusty is going to also go play the Rate That Treasury game here. So we will let him go pick up all of his nice loots, get that extra siren, while Pankraz is making his way through the rest of these fights.
This treasury is going to be a little bit more of a letdown for Dusty than it was for Pankraz because of the earlier looting that Dusty has already done. There isn't anything game-breaking that we found in this treasury, especially considering the party that we have access to at this point. But if there's a white mage or an edge up at the top of the tower here, and Dusty goes for it, having all the white mage gear that we found down here, as well as that full moon, could be a real big boon.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you always want to take your shots at finding, in particular, a Fusoya. So
Yeah.
there are no wrong decisions in this case, because we see both runners are going to places with characters. It's just a matter of, which one is going to have the right answer. Does Dwarf have a good character? Does Zot have a good character? We see a Sparkle on Pankraz's side and a Bard. So that is probably not the character that Pankraz was hoping for. And that Sparkle is some Lunar Dragons, which those are going to be easily quaked, and showing off the power of having that siren completed to get Quake on the kid.
And this spot, probably not the scariest spot that we can see the D-Lunars in. There are certain places where they are among the scariest bosses that you can see. There, for the ones that you mentioned, the ones that can't block underground access, but there are other bosses in certain places that are just totally scary, and the D-Lunars are one of them.
Yeah, D-Lunars, especially if they're in, let's say, the Fey March. Oh man, they can be very punchy. They're air quotes free if you can survive long enough, but they're just unpleasant. Now, speaking of things that aren't actually that unpleasant, elements here at this first spot is not going to be too bad, because Dusty's going to have access to a fair amount of ways to deal mage mashing damage, but also going to be able to exploit pretty much any element with his Quack Kid, or just going to elect to go the Quake route.
Quake is nice because if you accidentally trip into the next boss in a time where the weakness can change, that Quake is always going to deal non-elemental damage, so always going to do a big chunk of hurt.
Definitely, and it looks like Luca, with her strange fashion sense as always, decided that a pan was an appropriate piece of jewelry today. I'm not going to shame her in any way. I think it's adorable, just a different fashion sense that these dwarves have than I'm used to.
I think my neck would get tired if I was carrying a pan around on a necklace, but dwarves are built stronger.
That's true. And it looks like Dusty is through elements. Pankraz is going to give us our first peek into the Fey March, so we will get to see what fresh heck awaits our runners at these two spots. Meanwhile, Dusty has a very nice find here. That is a Rosa hanging out in the Tower of Zot. That is exactly the white mage that you want to see.
That's a nice payoff for Dusty. We'll see how long it takes before Pankraz decides to head up to the Tower of Zot. But find some good items in the shop here in the Fey March. Those silk webs are going to be very useful.
Yeah, the silk webs are nice. Pankraz, notably though, down to, what was it, about 7,000 in the way of gold now. We do see a Sparkle and Asura. So French vanilla Asura is something that you say thanks, but no thanks, I'll be back, maybe never. The Sparkle at Asura could be a Plague, could be a Wyvern, could be, basically unpleasant things, but doable maybe after some pan checks and other things. Just not stuff you want to play with right now, for sure.
Now with the pan in hand, Pankraz heading right on over to the Sylph Cave. Meanwhile, Dusty fighting the Dark Elf in the Vanilla Valvula spot. Decided to add Rosa to over Yang, so keeping the rest of the squad intact. There was also the chance of another Yang. Of course, when you already have one Yang, you don't need a second, and Dusty decided he needs 0. So I'm all on board with that. And Pankraz turns in the pan, whacks Yang on the head with it, and the Sylphs will reward him with a rat tail.
Yeah, I would consider that value continuing. Not necessarily guaranteed value, but more checks out of the way. And it looks like Pankraz going to fade the tower for the time being. Likely going to turn in the rat tail, turn in the Sheila 1 and 2 checks. We'll see what order he does. He may just drop this airship off and go do the pan checks in case the pink tail turns up as well, and then he doesn't have to land and do cutscenes twice. It looks like that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's a little bit of nuance you're going to get from top-tier runners. A lot of people might just go, I'm right here, I'm setting it down, I'm going to go ahead and turn in the rat tail, but there's that potential, and if that potential ends up being used, that's every little bit of time. We talked about how close the race was a couple of days ago, and Pankraz doesn't want that little bit of time to end up being the difference in the race.
Well, speaking of things that could make a difference in the race, though, there's a Legend Sword and a Darkness Crystal. Sheila with the goods. Oh, baby.
Yeah, that is a stacked Fabul with Sheila there in that tower. So, man, oh man, that is great. That's going to be another opportunity for Pankraz to pick up one of these white mages as well. But, the adamant over the Dusty's side.
Yeah, so this is interesting because let's say Pankraz goes and peeks the moon. Yeah. And he finds a Rosa or he finds a Fusoya. He's going to be very disincentivized from doing Zot, which means that Adamant may not be in his natural pathing at that point. And we're seeing yet more divergence from our runners. Dusty going to head up the tower. Pankraz turned in a rat tail for the pass. It's going to be very interesting to see where Pankraz heads now. Looks like he is going to do the Tower of Zot, though. So he is going to most likely be our first runner to complete that Forge objective, which is objective number 1. Just a really heads-up play to go and take a peek at this Zot.
Imagine if Dwarf Castle had yielded like Fusia or Rosa or something like that, gotten that white mage that we imagine he's really looking for, and that might be what he's prioritizing here. Would he have still made this play to go up Zot? It's still a possibility since there is that Magus Sisters objective and 2 bosses up at the top of Zot. So that could have been a reason why he went there too. Maybe the 2 of them together just said, yeah, I better knock this out before I head up to the moon or try anything up there.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. You have, well, there go the Magus Sisters objectives. So that is both boss objectives. We also now know where both halves of the Forge are. So from the booth and from the audience, we know where 3 of the 4 objectives are. It is simply a matter of where's the Twin Harp, where's the Pink Tail. So we could be in for another very speedy one, much more so maybe than we were expecting heading into this.
Overworld didn't seem like it was providing everything that it needed to, but man, this mid-game has really been bang, bang, bang with these objectives and the important key items.
Yeah, and huge shout-outs to Maggie doing tracking for us, making sure all the correct buttons are pushed and not eaten. Because, boy, has Maggie had a lot of work to do early on in the seed and into this mid-game.
So now the other question is is Dusty going to go with the Pinkwinator special and head out after finding those Mega Sisters? But no, he's continuing to climb the tower, going to check out the boss on top and another potential key item check. If this ends up being the Pink Tail or the Twin Harp, then we'll be in no mode.
Yeah, and I don't hate this check at all from Dusty. more or less the Luge spot is a pile of HP. It's relatively poor on all other stats. It doesn't really hit that hard. It certainly doesn't have good magic. It's a little fast. It's also a lot of demist today, so why not?
Wow, Tower of Value.
Now, one interesting thing here, though, is, like we said, this is a pile of HP.
Yeah.
And demist does like to phase in and out, and it is going to be a little speedy here. So this is not going to be a fast fight, but this is an absolutely mandatory fight.
See, immediately chugging that Bacchus wine is King, so that means Dusty is willing to eat all of the counter cold mists that are going to happen throughout the course of this fight. They don't do a lot of damage, but they do make the fight go slower, just seeing that animation over and over again. Hoping that the extra damage that Kane deals in the fight is going to make it faster than the extra time of the counters will slow it down. If that makes sense at all.
It definitely did, but I think we're going to see one of two other things. I think we're either going to see a coffin, a silver staff, or possibly even a virus from Palom. So when the mist phase happens, I think you're going to see Kane get bopped here, and in some form or fashion be ridden of that berserk status. But well, maybe not.
Nothing yet. Yeah, it looks like once just eat these cold mists.
Yeah, it's something that I want to say we saw happen in the first race between these two as well, if I remember. That I think they both had right around 4-minute demist fights, if I remember. Because I think their demist was on the hook route, if I remember correctly, and they both got through it amazingly fast. One runner ate counter mists and the other didn't. I don't remember which way it was, but this
I believe it was Pancreas who ate the counter mists the other day.
Yeah, this is not new to this series, so kind of a little bit of a deja vu feeling. Pancreas, meanwhile, through the Tower of Zot. I expect that we will see Dustygriff through this demist shortly. Going to get a ton of berserk hits in with this cane. Probably 6 to 8 hits before seeing another mist phase, so I think this is going to be it.
The only thing is that spear has a kind of questionable accuracy, so the damage rolls, we've seen it fluctuate a bit for him, but yes, it is enough to get through on this second cycle, so ended up being a pretty okay fight overall. Not the fastest, but not the slowest either.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of right in line with how Dusty often plays, is he's going to make sure that he can get through every fight. He's not going to take resets. He might be a little over-geared compared to his opponents, but he's largely going to make up time, generally speaking, through a seed. That Zeus Gauntlet is also going to help make up time, because that is a big amount of damage in the way of multipliers there. That plus 10 strength, the bonus damage to giants, the resistance to giants, just an overall excellent piece of gear to find.
And Pancreas has completed objective number 1 with that forge. So very nicely done after going through Tower of Zot to get the adamant, adding it to his collection with the Legends Lord, bringing him to Kokol, completing that objective, and now is heading over to the tower where we know the Mega Sisters lie.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big moment once we find out what this demist is. We know that Dusty has not yet done the pan chain through Dwarf. So will he be incentivized to set up Sheila 1 and also the demist check before doing Dwarf? And that may result in a second trip through the Sylph Cave as well. It'll be interesting to see how this routes for both runners.
Yeah, the routing has really favored Pancreas in the early part of the game, but that's the Twin Harp. Ooh, another thing that's going to fall in line for Pancreas, because that's going to be
go mode.
It's going to be go mode for Pancreas.
Yeah, so we got an hour and 11 minute versus hour and 14 on Wednesday. We may be in line for an even faster finish here. Um, I don't know that sirens were available anywhere. Did we see them yet?
I don't recall seeing them for sale, but I don't think anybody's checked the item shop at either Dwarf or the Tomra shop, and they could be in either one of those.
And Baron there from D-Mist is actually terrible news for Dusty. That represents a chain that you could very easily follow after this this Twin Harp, and we know from the booth that that is not where he needs to be going, but unfortunately he would have no idea of knowing that.
But he is beelining it to the objective, going to do this. There is, like, the saving grace for Dusty could be is if the key item from the completing of Keg Magnus is the pink tail, then he could get right back into this. But
that's true.
Barring that, Pankraz also has access to the moon. There's a shop on the moon that could also have the sirens. So if sirens are going to be the way that you're going to want to grind, Pankraz has more shops to check that could potentially have it than Dusty has as well.
Definitely true, and we also know that the runners are both capable of low-level strats as well. So even if there are no sirens, it's not as though they are completely, out of luck. They will absolutely be able to figure out a way through this. It's just going to be interesting to see, especially if this is Pinktail for Dustygriff from this Twin Harp, which we don't know whether it will or won't be. But if that would also effectively put him in go mode just without Zeromus access, which we know is through Dwarf Castle.
And required Dwarf Castle because that's the way that you got that rat tail that would also give you that pass. So Darkness Crystal and rat tail or Darkness Crystal and pass both through Dwarf. So that's something that Dusty's going to have to go through at some point.
Yeah. Now, speaking of things we're going to have to go through, a little bit of silence from us, I think we have to go through and enjoy some hand-picked music from the admin team and the one and only Calamity doing a lot of the music. So everybody enjoy.
Wow, DJ Spoony B really putting on a clinic there today. Big shout outs to Calamity for making that one.
Yeah, Calamity always does an absolutely amazing job. Speaking of amazing jobs, though, Dusty able to get through objective number 2, his third completed objective. So both runners now with 3 objectives done. Dustygriff only getting a strength ring, though, so no pink tail to be found yet.
Yeah, right now, Dusty needs to head to Dwarf in order to catch back up into this, because right now, Pankraz, I believe, in my estimate, has a pretty commanding lead in this scene.
Yeah, I think if Dusty ends up going to Dwarf instead of going to Baron, we're still live here. Which Dusty is going underground, but maybe peeking Feymarch first. And that looks like what he is doing while Pankraz is heading back down the Tower of Babel and he will be getting his go mode basically at this point.
Yeah, because Pankraz won't have anything better to do than to go and complete that last objective. And he'll be at 10 key items as well. So whatever grind Pankraz decides to do, he's going to be at the double experience level as well.
Yeah, and that 10 key items is nice because in the race on Wednesday, we know that one of the reasons why it ended up being so close was Dusty had done one extra check on the top of tower, and that gave him 10 key items, where Pankraz only had 9 key items for his grind, resulted in very different Zeromus fights and very different levels.
Yeah, Pankraz took it on at a much lower level, but also just the amount of time needed to grind helped out Dusty in that. But in this case, Pankraz is not going to have any such handicap in the grind. It's going to be at that 10 key item threshold for the double experience, and that's what's really important when you've got your grind on.
Yeah, definitely. And we looks like we are getting Pankraz turning in D-Mist. Going to maybe try to spike a really shiny sword for somebody. We know it's the Baron key, but could also be hoping for Pinktail to save some time on turn-ins. So definitely understandable to turn that in instead of just going straight to the Twin Harp. And we see Dusty taking a peek at these Feymarch bosses and might be contemplating taking on this Asura, and that would be very bold.
Yeah, it looks like it. I thought he might have just decided to heal up just Cecil for some cover strategies in this, but no, healing up everybody. So now I know Dusty has access to some mute arrows, so Rosa can do some considerable damage with the bow and arrow on this, but gonna go with Cecil as the Zerker, and these counterattacks from Asura are going to be strong.
Yeah, these are going to be some meaty hits from Asura here. Meanwhile, there are sirens in Dwarf Castle that I will not lie, I missed them completely the first time through. There is 12, a count of 12 sirens on Pankraz's side. That is more than enough for these characters, and he is going to grind it now since he is at 10 key items already. Then go do Twin Harp, and then basically be in Troy to use the pass.
Right there,
so, yeah, again, really heads up, really smooth routing from Pankraz here. To answer a question from chat, I don't think this will be sub-hour, but it's not going to be much over it either.
Pankraz being rewarded with another siren for that egg fight, so yeah. But yeah, the advantage of having Rosa is twofold over someone like Porum in the party. She gets much better HP growth. She also learns Tier 4 relatively early as well, so the amount of sirens needed to get a party with Rosa is a lot easier than if you're going to be depending on Porum throughout the course of a traditional Z fight. We know Pankraz can do it at much lower levels and nerf big bangs and everything like that, but with Rosa, you don't even have to worry about that most of the time.
Yeah, not to dunk on Porum, we do enough of that anyway as it is. But Rosa is just so good for so many reasons. And her HP growth to be able to compete with Zerkers is definitely one of those things. Pankraz a little unhappy there. He ended up with a 1,729 damage virus, needing 1,800 for an egg. Not exactly ideal. Meanwhile, Dusty is going to get Forge here. There is a Legend Sword. That is objective number 1 completed for Dusty. So he is going to be close behind Pankraz as far as go mode, with the one major exception: he doesn't have Zeromus access yet because of that Dwarf Castle check.
Yeah, still has to go through Dwarf Castle, which means fighting that gauntlet as well.
Correct. And yeah, unfortunately, that gauntlet represents a decent chunk of time. This is what we didn't want to see, and this is one of the things we were worried about. Dusty landing in Baron, and this is tough to see because Dusty has not made any wrong decisions I do want to make that abundantly clear to everybody. No wrong decisions have been made. Everything's been wonderful, given his knowledge and given his routing. It's just for this seed, it's not. It's a classic case of rando gonna rando.
Right, and this is like his methodical style means going here. There's 2 key item checks here versus 1 in Dwarf Castle. So it makes perfect sense to come here to Dwarf. I think Dusty's kind of style, his methodical style, really favors longer seeds, but these quicker ones we saw both a couple days ago and this seem to be rewarding the more aggressive playstyle of Pankraz.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's not only the aggressive style, but it's also getting the routing right. You know, Pankraz was able to basically beeline to the required key items and able to dodge the ones that weren't required. So we have Pankraz up 1-0 in this series based on the result Wednesday, and closing in on what could be an absolutely magnificent run through this tournament. Keep in mind, he started out this tournament 1-2. He had to stave off eliminations week 4, 5, and 6 of Swiss. He got pushed to 3 games against Nightdew. He got pushed to 3 games against Dia and some other folks. Pankraz has had to survive and advance through and through this tournament, and he has earned his place in these finals. Dusty, meanwhile, cruised through, never took a single loss until getting to the finals. So it's very much interesting to see the finals play out this way, given the paths that these 2 runners took through the tournament.
Well, Pankraz started 1-2, you say. I mean, I started 1-2, so I'm probably about as good as Pankraz.
I mean...
So yeah, Dusty got through that Rubicon fight, no problem there. Seeing another Lunar Sparkle here. I believe we have Plague and Wyvern still on the table for these, and we've got, there is the Wyvern itself.
Yeah, that's the fun dragon.
And while we're doing this one, I want to take a moment to shout out our restream team tonight. We do have Maggie the Cat on tracking, Neo Bari on the restream. Big shout outs to both of them, because if we don't have that, we don't have a show. And so very kind thank yous to both of you. Also big shout outs to RPG Limit Break. Being able to host our finals on their channel means a lot to us. So I hope you're all enjoying this. I know I'm having a fun time watching what is turning out to be a real clinic that Pankraz has been putting on.
Yeah, I would say a clinic that both of our runners have been putting on.
True.
There is Nuke for Palom and White for Rosa. I have a feeling that we are going to see a twin harp fight from Pankraz soon, and then off to the big bad of final boss. However, I do want to make sure that while we're doing all these shout-outs, that we do shout out my co-commentator, Rex, who is not only a fantastic commentator of Free Enterprise, but also a fantastic runner. And I've seen you play your fair share of Magic Online, and you are quite heckin' good at that too, sir.
Well, I've been playing Magic Online a lot more than I've been playing a lot longer than I've been playing Free Enterprise, but I love them both, so I appreciate that, Possum. I'll add one more big shout out to you. It's been a pleasure to run this, to call this race with you, and I know that you've been somebody who's been, I don't want to say a bit of a mentor to a lot of newer runners as well too, and I think that's real great to see in the community.
Well, thank you, Rex. I appreciate that. It means a lot to be able to help everybody out the way that everyone helped me out when I joined this community. So a little bit of paying it forward and giving back. And Pankraz is going to be giving back a little bit to the community by getting us our second rendition of music for the night, and Dusty going to show us a free boss in the Barren Basement. Bahamut will be nothing but a speed bump in the road here for Dusty. He will make quick work of this Bahamut.
Yeah, and I believe it was Kainazzo in this spot here. Kainazzo is a boss that's kind of one of the more notoriously difficult ones in certain situations. With the party that we have, especially at the levels that Pankraz is at now, not going to be any difficulty to get through this fight here.
Yeah, definitely not going to be an issue on Pankraz's side getting through this. A single nuke would get through it, probably a single white or a couple of melee attacks. But I think we could use a little vocal break here. Let everybody get ready for what will be the end of the seed and enjoy the music one more time, y'all.
And Edward didn't even have a lot of time to shred that time around.
No, as expected, one nuke, a little bit of microwave turtle, and the end of the line for that kind of. So a strength ring for Pankraz. May or may not even see him equip that at this point. Meanwhile, Dusty is turning in the forge. He is going to get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That will be 10 key items from getting the crystal from this. He did also pick up the Luca key, which we know is terrible news for him from the Baron checks. But he is at least going to have 10 key items for a grind before doing any further checks. But Pankraz going to be on his way to the final boss of all free enterprise seeds and all Final Fantasy IV in general. Rex, what do we think about this boss? Is it something that we should take a nap for because chat keeps putting out these Z flags? Is it something we should talk about? What's really going on here?
Well, I think the only question to be asked is whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Ah, yes, whose butt are we going to kick indeed? Zeromus is too big and too bad to put anywhere else. As y'all know, you would not want to see a Big Bang in Antlion Cave. That would not be fun. Imagine rolling in there with a Rydia and an Edward and getting hit for 500 damage from a Big Bang. That'd be terrible. So make sure your Z flags are out because we are going to get a special Zeromus. I believe all the sprites for the finals are handpicked by the amazing Scala Kitty. I could be wrong on that, but I hope I'm not. Usually new sprites, if not new sprites, they are handpicked. So this should be a fun time, and I definitely look forward to seeing this. I hope it's a cute butt as well. Oh, and we are getting
confirmation from Scala. It is brand new, never before seen.
Excellent.
I wouldn't be surprised if Pankraz is going for a bit of a hybrid strategy here. Have Kane and Cecil be swinging with their weapons. We've got White and Nuke that could be reflected for no counterattack from the mages. And Sid, he can do kind of utility items if necessary as well. Oh, here we are. King Gaiet.
The king himself.
Is the Lali-Ho League. Meanwhile, Dusty finally heading over to Gaiet's home, the Dwarf Castle, so he's on a good pace. No wonder, with Gaietness being in charge of everything, no wonder that Dwarf Castle was so important today.
It makes sense, because in order to get to Zeromus, both the Pass and Darkness Crystal are locked behind Dwarf Castle, and this is in fact the Lali-Ho League. So it only makes sense that this would be the path to him. You must go through his castle to actually find the king himself.
And we see those Whites and Dukes coming from Palom and Rosa here. Yeah, I think Pankraz is in a good side. He's got plenty of levels to get through this fight. I often say that Zeramis is no joke, but I think he's in a really good shape in order to win this fight here.
Yeah, with two Zerkers pushing, in this case, about 4,500 damage, and then reflected nukes and reflected whites, or, splashing in some cures there, we might see a second Big Bang. But
Yeah.
I don't even know that we're going to see that. It's going to be a ton of damage coming out on Pankraz's side. So we'll see how it turns out, but I would expect that worst case scenario, you could even just end up with the power couple pushing through at the end of this. Rosa with 2,300 health, that is a boatload of health for a Rosa.
Yeah, I think when a hybrid strategy like this, when all goes well, you're right, you see one Big Bang, you might see a Meteor as well, and that's about it, because the Berserkers do a good job of clogging up the action time battle queue. And the spells just do big chunks of damage at once.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 9,000 damage nuke coming out there. Palom has things to do.
Big chunk.
Yeah, Palom has things to do and places to be. And those places do not involve the Lali-Ho League after this seed. Apparently, he's done, and
he's ready to go back to the city. Just chill for a few months.
Yeah, no trips to Baron, no trips to the moon. Palom just wants to relax.
And I think this is the second race in a row where nothing, like no key items on the moon. We didn't need to do a moon dive in these races in the finals here.
Yeah, very grounded, very earth-oriented. Very good for both our runners from a time perspective. So, these are seeds that would probably take our runners, most average runners, probably myself, yourself included, in the hour and a half range that, these runners are taking an hour and 10 minutes on, or less. It's just phenomenal how quick that they're able to get through these. Now we could have some interesting things here. Nope, no interesting things, no rocks, just a crack and a boom and a dissolving or fading away of the king, and a new king of free enterprise to be crowned, as Pankraz wins this race in an official time of 104.19, sweeping the finals from Dustygriff. GG's and congratulations to Pankraz, and we will see if we can get him in for an interview.
Yeah, and I believe we are joined by Pankraz. Big GG's and congratulations on your win. Congratulations on being the champion of the Lali-Ho League.
Thank you very, very much. GG's, Dusty.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal tournament all the way through, Pankraz. Before I get started with any questions that I might have for you, just your thoughts in general on the seed, your thoughts on the series. Kind of take us through your mindset through this race and through this week.
So this seed, we'll start there. Start with what's fresh. Seed was an interesting one. It was one of those where, with the early power that you have in the grab bag, in your starting duo and so on, you can either go and loot and maybe become stronger, but you probably have enough power to just get going. And at least to me, it felt like I had enough, so I just started bolting through as many checks as I could, try to start zooming with the Black Sword, with the Wooden Hammer, with what eventually became Dancing Dagger Cane into Gungnir Cane. It was a lot of power to leverage really early and to start just keep on accelerating, keep the foot on the gas pedal throughout that seed. When everything ended up turning up with both halves, or with the required Dwarf Castle to get Zeramis access, with all the objectives, with the half tower being the play again, apparently. Everything just kind of hit very quickly, and I'm glad that I managed to keep cool.
Yeah, and you put on an absolute clinic in this race, as well as so many of your other races throughout the tournament. One thing I did want to touch on, and we kind of alluded to this during the race, that you did not have an easy path to get here. You were 1-2 after 3 weeks, and had to stave off elimination for 3 straight weeks. You had a number of game 3s in your quest to get to the finals. Kind of take us through your mindset. How do you keep yourself balanced, and how do you keep yourself kind of in that zone to power through, even when things might be looking like they're on kind of the razor's edge?
For me, it was always just a matter of, it's one more race. Focus on the race that you're running right now. Try to play the best game that you have. Even in my losses in the tournament, I always felt like I had played a really good race, even if I didn't come away with a win. So I knew that as long as I continued playing that well, I could have, or could in the future, come away with those wins. It was not easy staving off the elimination every time, especially in some of those seeds that went really, really long. There was like 1 2-hour seed somewhere in there where the whole time I'm just panicking because at any moment I feel that I can just, I glance in the race room and boom, there's the done. There goes my tournament life. I guess I'll just go play more ladder. But like that came up both in my series with Night Dew, especially after the first game, the series with Dia, the last couple weeks of Swiss. It was a challenge to just remain cool, try to focus on the game ahead of me, focus on trying to play the best game that I can, and hopefully coming away with a win. Fun fact of the day, in my 5 elimination matches, I did not lose, hence why I am here today. So, hoping to keep that streak going at least, and very glad that I've managed to do so far.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you never lose an elimination match, you technically can't lose, and that's the best kind of technically, right? So
That's way to be correct, technically correct.
But congratulations again. It's always a joy to watch you race. I really don't have too much in the way of questions on the seed itself. You kind of took us through your mindset and everything that was going on. Rex, got anything for the champion of the LHL League?
I think the part that impressed me the most in this race that we saw tonight was when you saw that Galvez in the back attack spot on Mount Ordeals. Do you want to run through what you were thinking when you saw the evil overlord show up in what is actually a really nasty place to see him?
At first thought I had was, God, I regret not saving. If this was a wife, then I have to redo the karate fight. It's a little bit of time loss, yada yada. But once everybody started getting eaten, he ate Palom, which meant that I knew either Kane or Cecil survives the initial onslaught. As my 2 fastest characters, if one of them survives, I can probably get a Star Veil off, even if I lose the 50-50. In this case, it ate Palom, and then right afterward ate Kane, so had to hope a little bit. And we saw Cecil get eaten by the virus immediately after I regained control. But managed to get the Star Veil up on Sid, was happy to do so, thought the agility situation might be good enough to get it up, and was
like the run buffers just really got you there, right?
Maybe the second one, I don't know. The first one didn't do anything. But, I like to say anything is possible through the power of run buffering, and maybe it helped me out there. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I'm glad that it did. I'm glad that I didn't have to redo the karate fight.
Well, here we see the other sprite here, Sirenimus. This would have been from game 3 if we would have had one. So really good show off here, being able to see in honor of the great bot on Discord, Siren.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'd have much more chaos when it comes to the scheduling and everything without our good friend Siren. So thank you, Zoe, for all of your work on developing her, and thank you as well to the admin team for all of the behind-the-scenes work. It can't be easy with a tournament of this magnitude, with all the scheduling, with all the logistics and everything. So huge shout outs to all of them. Scala Kitty, Rivers, all of the workshop helpers out there to help make this as fantastic of an event as it has been.
Well, as the new Lord of Lali-Ho, do you have any official proclamation?
I've got nothing.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot there. So.
No, I mean, I've got no wise words or, big sayings or anything. I'm just, Free Enterprise has been an absolute blast to get into. Like 1 year ago, loosely, I submitted my first time for Seed of the Week. And beginning of last May, I picked up the controller for the first time to try it. So to be here today as a tournament champion is just, it's absurd and mind-boggling, and it still hasn't settled in yet.
Well, big GG's once again. Congratulations on defeating Dustygriff, who's been a previous champion as well. So the pedigree very much earned tonight. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. And I want to thank you for letting us watch your adventure throughout this tournament as well.
Of course. I always aim to entertain, and hopefully this series, above all, has at the very least been entertaining. Huge GG's to Dusty. It was an amazing run to watch him get through here, and it's a shame he had to face me. But massive GG's. Like, if both, I got pretty lucky in the series where both of these seeds were, rewarded a little bit faster and more aggressive of an early game, and Dusty's a little more cautious, will take some time to set up, and that, with how quick these seeds were, the randomizer did not reward that sort of playstyle necessarily. So, feeling a little lucky, a little happy, and pretty proud. Thank you again for the GGs. Thank you to Dusty for the great series, and thanks to all of you on the Restream team for tonight. It was, I'm sure, a fantastic show, and I look forward to watching it back. But you all have a great rest of the night as well.
Thank you, Pankraz. You as well. GG is one last time, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and that was our winner of tonight's race and the champion of the Lali-Ho League, xPankraz. What an amazing couple of races. I mean, everything fell in the right path for him, but he didn't slip up. He was able to take advantage of everything that he came across as well, and that's what it really takes in order to be consistently well, in order to win through a big tournament like this.
Yeah, and that consistent play style, that knowledge of when to turn on the aggression, when to turn it off. And we heard this, while he was talking in his interview, and kind of settling into his mindset that with what he started with, and with what little looting he did, what he found, he was able to just keep that pedal to the metal, and really was able to accelerate through this seed, and also through the seed Wednesday. So the flag sets, the races, they may have favored him a little bit in that regard, but you still have to execute, and right. Howdy did he ever.
And that's meaning something when you're facing off against somebody like Dusty, who's really known for the execution being perfect throughout the playstyle too. So, like, if Pankraz had slipped up on the execution at any point, Dusty would have been right there to jump on it.
Yeah, and I mean, keep in mind, we have Dusty, who did a number of now extra checks compared to Pankraz as well, and is still going to be finishing this Zeromus fight probably somewhere around 15 minutes behind. That's it, having done a number of extra checks. So this is not to say that Dusty has not played a good race. Dusty has played a phenomenal race and probably beats 99% of runners. He just happened to run into the guy that's been on fire 1%, lately.
Yeah. But Dusty has finished his grind. Off Tutoria is going to be now entering the final battle as well. Also, like very similar setup to Pankraz, has the nuke on Palom, so ready to see another big hybrid fight here.
Yeah, definitely going to see some big damage coming out from Palom, from Rosa, from Kane and Cecil. Identical teams, as you alluded to, identical setups, basically. Going to be very similar, and I would expect we'll see a finish here shortly from Dusty. I can't imagine we'll see too many obstacles standing in his way here from this Zeromus.
Yeah, I think the only difference is it looks like Sid is a little bit higher level, so that might there might be something with the agility, but I think at these levels, again, we've got 2,300 HP on Rosa. As you said, that's a lot. That's a big safety valve that you have right there.
Yeah, it's really hard to lose a fight, not impossible, with a 2,300 health Rosa. With any semblance of gear, you have to actively try in a lot of cases to run into trouble with a Rosa that is that strong. And we actually might be getting a little different setup here from Dusty. It looks like he is not going with Berserkers. So he might just be opting for reflected whites, reflected nukes, and manual attacking from Cecil and Kane here. So maybe going for air quotes hybrid, but a manual hybrid, not a Berserk hybrid.
Yeah, the advantage to this is you will skip the HP refill that happens once you get about halfway through Zeromus's HP. It actually refills to the full amount. So it's kind of the illusion that he's got more HP than the SNES was able to handle at the time. The disadvantage is you don't have the Berserkers always clogging up the ATB queue, and so your risk of Zeromus doing more big bangs and things and everything is there as well.
Yeah, definitely true. The risk is a little higher, but the potential time save is also there. So this may actually be a faster fight than Pankraz's, simply because he's not going to have to worry about an extra 60,000 health, roughly.
Yeah, as long as you do the math right, then it could be much faster. But if you get to that threshold, then that's when I imagine Dusty will get it right.
Yeah, and I imagine we're actually getting very close here to where you would stop attacking, if my math is correct. And we'll probably see a nerf come out with the crystal once Giot shakes here, making sure that his mages are going to live through the Big Bang, or he may opt to just not even nerf. He may just go straight through and just go full reflect. It'll be interesting to see.
I think he's hoping that this Cure 3 and Palom will survive this one. Depends on how much the damage roll is for this Big Bang, whether or not Palom will be able to survive it. But even if he doesn't, Rosa almost certainly will, and then she should be able to finish off the fight from there on her own with as little HP Zeromus will have after this.
Yeah, definitely true. So this is a big roll here. We want to see 1,300 on Palom, just like that. That's perfect. Now we also want to see no black hole here. We want to make sure that there is a white cast that comes out from Rosa here, because otherwise this could get a little sketchy. Yeah, this is what I was worried about here, is that white spell has a big enough delay that he's going to end up having a very dead Palom here. But a Cure 4 from Rosa should spot him some time. Or it may just go straight back to Reflect. We'll see. Yeah, just going straight back to Reflect. No curing. Nobody has time for that.
Getting this nuke up before Giant shakes, I think, means that it's going to hit before, and hopefully the about 9,000 damage that it does will be enough to end this fight. We'll see.
Yeah, and if not, that white should do it as well.
Ooh, that was a low roll on that nuke. But
It
that's
was good enough.
I was scared because I didn't see the flash, but I know he has the effects turned off, but there we are.
Yeah, and also shout out to Kane for living on what will be, I believe, 2 HP once the sap tick rolls in here. So just enough, got there, got it done. And I believe we are joined by Dustygriff as well. GG's to you, Dusty.
Hey, GG's.
So,
Oh, go ahead, Rex.
why don't we start with something easy, and why don't you tell me about what you felt about this seed that you had to face tonight?
Not too bad. It's just I made some decisions I probably normally wouldn't, and did some routing that I normally wouldn't to try and diverge a little from what I expected Pankraz to do. And obviously that didn't work out, but at the same time, it could have in an instance. So I'm mostly okay with how I played it. It's just kind of the way things went.
For what it's worth, that seemed to be our consensus of the booth. We didn't really spot anything that we thought was wrong with your decisions. Just like the decisions you make didn't pay off as well as they did for Pankraz tonight.
Yeah.
So why don't you? You had a pretty smooth ride throughout the entire of the tournament, and then you ran into the whirlwind that was Pankraz in this finals. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you feel about your performance throughout the course of the event?
To be honest, when I started this tournament, I felt a little washed up. So it was a surprise to me even that I did so well, because there's just a lot of even at the end of ZZ3 and towards this tournament, just a lot of life stuff where I just could not play Free Enterprise a whole lot in between the two tournaments and prepare much at all for this one. But lucky enough, the stars aligned a little bit and life calmed down, and I was able to have time to take part in the tournament and then play a decent amount while the tournament was ongoing and get back into my groove and all that sort of thing. And I felt like some of my play of this tournament was some of my best play overall, so I felt mostly good. I mean, I don't feel bad at all about losing to Pankraz. As I mentioned last night, Pankraz deserves this and a lot more for how well he's played the last little while. And he played very well in ZZ3 as well. So it's very much props to him. And the amount of work that Pankraz puts in really shows. So I don't know. I think Free Enterprise is one of those, while it's a randomizer, the amount of work that you put into it will really shine through if you're willing to like make your play better and that sort of thing. And Pankraz is a really good example of that. So yeah, I feel no sort of bad. I don't feel bad at all losing to Pankraz, who I think is, you know, in my mind, the top player right now. So.
Well, I mean, I just want to say it was great to have. If you think Pankraz is the best that there is right now, it's really good that we saw him go up against the champion of the last tournament as well. So it was a really good head-to-head match. And like, I don't really have much else to say right now. Possum, did you have any questions you wanted to ask us, Dusty?
You kind of covered most of it, and Dusty, you kind of covered a lot of, you know, where your mindset was, you know, the behind the scenes stuff that you had going on leading into the tournament. I guess my big question to you is, you know, what's your plans after this one? You're going to be taking a break? You're going to, you know, hit up the ladder? What's on the table for Dustygriff?
I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll roll the dice and maybe I'll let the dice decide. Do I grind harder than I ever have before, or do I take a break? I don't know. Maybe that's what I lacked on this one between tournaments. Even though my run up to this point, yes, was good and everything else, it's obviously fell short against Pankraz, which again I can't say enough that I don't feel bad at all about that because of the work that he puts in. But I'm like, maybe next tournament I'll put in a lot of work and see if maybe I could make that lossless run go all the way through, but that might be asking for a little bit too much. But yeah, I think I would like to grind a bit more ladder now that I'm not so focused on just practicing brackets and whatnot in the small-ish amount of time that I have. But there's a lot of fun stuff going on with ladder, and ladder, from what I've played of it, has been really good. So I'd like to get back to that and just kind of playing free enterprise as a whole instead of just focusing on only tournament flags and only bracket flags for 8 weeks or however long this was. So
definitely. Well, we'll be more than happy to see you in the ladder should you choose to do that. And if this is you without grinding, and this is you without having the time to put in, by God, I am terrified of not Dustygriff and the true final form of Dustygriff.
I think I turned into like decent griff through there, through the middle part of the tournament. Even starting out wasn't that bad. It was just, there was some rust there. But yeah, hopefully next time I can come back a little scarier. We'll see.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see Dustymus 3 in the next event too, right?
Maybe. We'll have to see. Only time will tell.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Did you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
I just want to say thank you to everyone, and for especially to the admin team and the restream team and everyone on this one, because the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes can't be talked about enough by everyone. All the admins and the devs here. So very much an amazing tournament. I think this has just been one of our best tournaments so far. And it just gets better every time. And thank you, Rex and Possum, for commentating tonight, Maggie for tracking, Barry for restreaming. Appreciate it so much. And very much GG's again to Pankraz. I can't say how impressive his play has been and how deserved it is that he gets the win for this tournament. So GG's again. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one.
All right. That was our runner-up tonight, Dustygriff. Make sure to give both of these finalists a big follow. We do have something else for you today, and I think I'm going to let Scalakitty join the party.
Hey, hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Scalakitty, and I have the pleasure and the honor to put the official bow on the end of the Lali-Ho League. Once more, I want to congratulate our Lali-Ho League champion, xPankraz. It was a hard-fought victory, and I am so proud to see you take your first championship. And of course, as we just were talking, it was an amazing run for Dusty as well, as we would expect from one of our premier runners. So now that we've reached the end, I wanted to take some time to thank everyone who put in all the time and effort to make this event a success. I want to start off by thanking all of our racers. We had 108 this time around, and everyone did such a great job in terms of scheduling and running and just putting on amazing displays of skill, whether they were someone who is a newcomer to the scene or an old veteran. It's always so wonderful to see everyone be so excited for this game and want to jump in and compete. Next thank you goes to our restream team. We put on over 200 restreams in just 3 months, which was a absolutely phenomenal effort, and it took everyone working together day in and day out to make it happen. We are truly blessed to have so many talented individuals in our community, be they commentators or trackers or restreamers. I specifically want to thank our restream leads who did so much work and planning behind the scenes. So thank you to Asuka, to Gambit, to Ground Flyer, to Leggy Starscream, to LM Motos, to Rex Rawl, and to our 2 newest leads, Solaris and Xenocat, as well as a big thank you to Ali Seal, who was just promoted to admin just like a few days ago after her wonderful tenure as a lead. And of course, there is our admin team. Everyone put in lots of work in the lead up to the tournament, whether it was like tuning and testing our flag sets, working out the format, as well as handling everything during the tournament itself, whether it be monitoring matches, overseeing issues, and just making sure that everything ran smoothly this whole time, be it on the website, on Discord, or on stream. We had around 375 matches, and we couldn't have handled all of that work without everyone putting in their fair share. So, big thank you to Antidale, to Baka Shinobi, to Dustygriff, to Flurry, to Invenerable, to Maggie the Cat, to Moonblazewolf, to Rivers McCown, to Penguinator, Poidrax, Smapty, and Zoe Vermillion. And extra thanks to newest Z-Sprite and clearly not an AI overlord, Siren, our wonderful scheduling and tournament management bot, who was an instrumental part of this entire event. And finally, thank you to everyone out here in chat right now, or who decide to go and watch the VOD afterwards. Free Enterprise is the community that it is because of all of you out there making it such a warm, welcoming, and wonderful place. Everyone's support for our runners and our volunteers means the world to us, and I want to make sure that you all know that you're appreciated too. Whether you watched as many races as possible live, or whether you just sort of lurked, maybe only caught a few races, we value everyone in this community. And now that we have all wrapped up, we'll be getting back to some of the off-season silliness and fun we know you all enjoy. We'll have community races, community clubs, and the latter all coming back full force. And of course, we look forward to coming back later on this year for Highway to the Zenith Zone 4. The name is pending, but y'all know we'll have a silly acronym for it that no one will remember except for me. And as we are wrapped up, though, I do believe that we have a wonderful raid target lined up. A certain wonderfully inclusive and rainbow-colored marathon that many members of our community are joining in on that might be showcasing Free Enterprise tomorrow. And there might be new harp songs and new Z-Sprites folks can donate towards. Do you, Rex and Possum, do you know what that might be?
Well, I don't.
It is the wonderful Power Up with Pride. We are so happy to bring all of our good energy over there. And yes, tomorrow night, do be sure to watch Silverfire Showcase FF4 Free Enterprise, and be sure to get in those donations for new harp song, new Z-Sprites, and to name the entire party. And thank you so much to our Restream team for tonight, to Neobari, to Maggie, to Possum, and to Rex. It was fantastic to have you all call our final race and just put a wonderful finish on this show.